Welcome back to the Office Marketing Podcast with Mike Swigert, the podcast all about sales tips, mindset, and value bombs. 5 questions to help make your day more productive and learn a thing or two. Here is your host, best-selling author, Mike Swigert.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for taking time out of your day to listen to the Office Marketing Podcast. I have the pleasure to talking to a good old friend, and rarely do I say that about engineers, but I'm so glad to be talking to Stanton Stafford. Stanton Stafford is the principal at the Integral Group here in Atlanta, Georgia. He is insanely talented, insanely intelligent, but he also loves giving to back to the community. He just absolutely has a passion for the projects he's involved in. And we've always connected really well, Stanton. And I really want to thank you for taking time out of your day to share your story.
Yeah, no problem, Mike.
All right. So Stanton, you've had a fun path from UVA to where you are today. And would you kind of give us walk us through that journey that you've been on the last 22 years?
Yeah, absolutely. Even before UVA, I'm born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm an Atlanta boy, very avid baseball guy, love the Braves, and kind of grew up in the downtime of the Braves, through the 80s, and kind of got to witness, the pinnacle of the 90s, with the Maddox, Glavine, Smoltz era, which was fantastic. Always wanted to go to a school like UVA, so just worked hard, got in, spent 4 great years in Charlottesville. Decided out of school I wasn't really ready yet to return back home to Atlanta. Wanted to test the waters elsewhere, so I migrated to Washington D.C. Took a first job with Jacobs Engineering, small little company,
little startup, just the startup. Yeah,
just a little startup company.
But really, Stanton, how big? But help people understand. If you don't know engineering, Jacobs probably touches 1 billion square feet a year.
Yeah, I don't even know that, but I mean, it's probably 100,000 employees. I mean, Fortune 500, if not like Fortune 250 now. Yeah. But one of the ginormous engineering companies. Kind of cut my teeth there. Should kind of circle back. I started into the MEP world, mechanical engineering at UVA. I kind of worked my way into that concentration because my grandfather was a mechanical engineer. Went to Georgia Tech, and he started his own company, hired all his brothers, and was kind of one of those guys in the early days of HVAC to really kind of get that industry going in Atlanta. So I used to go out up on the rooftops with his service techs and clean the equipment, service the equipment. So I was exposed to HVAC in high school, and if not a little bit earlier in my life. So mechanical engineering, UVA, migrated to DC. Jacobs, took a job within their building engineering group. Bounced around a few different companies, got exposed to the federal government, working for the federal government, doing some aviation work. Lead in sustainability was kind of growing up at that time. USGBC had just been founded, so and this will all kind of come together in the end, kind of where I am. But became exposed to sustainable design, at an early age in my career, and it became kind of the big theme, kind of moving through a couple different stops in DC. Worked for a smaller AE company in Alexandria, and then ended up working for an MEP focused firm. First time working for just an MEP firm, AKF Group in Arlington, Virginia, before deciding hey, I'm married, I've got 2 kids at that time, married a fantastic mechanical engineer from UVA. We didn't know each other in school. We met at a recruiting event. So I actually recruited my wife, as that kind of may sound a little creepy, but it worked out well.
Crazy engineers. Yeah. It's just an engineer thing,
right?
I
know. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You probably had a spreadsheet. You probably had a spreadsheet. Everything was all organized, all laid out before you met her. No.
Something like that. I mean, I tell you, our dinner table conversations around kind of HVAC theory were riveting. You know,
That's great.
all our guests, you loved having dinners with us. But no, so had two kids, wanted to be close to one set of our parents, be closer. And my wife's from a small town in Pennsylvania, so we ended up moving to my hometown, Atlanta, in 2010. Joined the largest MEP firm in town. Spent 4.5 great years there, running their energy and sustainability group. Their first ever leader of that group to kind of just consolidate thinking and process and approach to how MEP firms attack sustainable design, energy modeling, and whatnot. So helped develop a lot of programs at Newcomb and Boyd, and then got a call to provide a reference for one of my former Newcomb Boyd employees for this company called Integral Group. And I'd seen them at USGBC conferences as kind of the firm within our space, pushing the envelope, doing the work that I wanted to do. So happy to give my colleague a reference. He ended up getting hired, but I now know that there was kind of a dual purpose to that inquiry. They were kind of feeling me out because they had wanted to establish a presence in Atlanta. They'd done some work in Atlanta, but wanted to establish an office in Atlanta. So, back and forth, went up to DC to meet with the CEO, founder and CEO, Kevin Hides, and they gave me an offer to open up the Atlanta office for Integral Group. And it was just me. They hired me to do it and said, hey, we want you to establish this, based on you being, knowing the market, you being from the market. We're not going to try to push things down your throat and tell you have to do things a certain way. So they gave me the keys to the car. They didn't give me the owner's manual. They just said, figure it out and, give us a call. If you need help, we'll provide you some support, but, it's really up to you. So then, the odyssey began. Army of one in Atlanta, backed by a company of 300, which was, great to have all these great minds doing great work around zero energy. We're the nation's leader, North American leaders in zero energy building. So I had all these great, thought leaders in the firm to pull from. But yeah, going in and starting up something from scratch is an interesting process. A lot of ups and downs. Got to kind of throw a lot of darts at the board, see kind of what sticks. But it was all always under the banner of wanting to do something different, wanting to set up a company, set up an office in my hometown to show that we could do building engineering a different way, and it wasn't just the old conventional model. Tell me what you want and I'll do a good job. It was more proactive, more forward thinking, wanting to have outcome based designs. So it kind of started with that whole idea, and ended up having some early business development success. Pulling in the first project that we won was the Coda building at Tech Square with Portman Architects.
Now, people listening may not know sort of the scale of that project. Can you give us an idea? Like, I know it's a pretty good size project, but give us an idea how big that project was.
So Coda, a new high-rise, 2-tower high-rise, 600,000 rentable square feet. On the same site, there's a data center that at the time was planned as a 20 megawatt data center, kind of a co-located where Georgia Tech, they're the primary impetus in developing the Tech Square area of Midtown Atlanta. They were using this concept as a public-private incubator, kind of the next generation of office building. And part of the criteria was to showcase innovative thinking relative to systems, relative to energy, consumption, sustainability. So in conversations with Portman, I knew Georgia Tech, who was ultimately selecting the developer team, wasn't going to be interested in conventional solutions, and wanted to think about ways we could leverage waste energy in a productive way, how to showcase leadership in terms of implementing systems approaches that were not widespread and kind of embedded in the bulk of buildings. So pitching an idea of doing chill beams, within a commercial office space hadn't been done in Atlanta. Certainly not at the scale that we were talking. Georgia Tech was going to take roughly half of the 600,000 square feet. So chill beams across 300,000 some odd square feet of high-rise office in the middle of an urban corridor in a hot, humid climate. Scared a lot of people, so it was a lot of selling and reselling the concept, and yes, it will work. But ultimately got that built. Became one of the first 3 LEED core and shell platinum certified projects in Georgia.
Now this is your first. Now wait, now you're with Integral. This was your first big win here in town, right?
This is the first big win. The second big win actually got completed first. So Coda took a long time because we had to dig down 40 feet to come back up. But NCR's headquarters, right down the street from Coda, was actually the first project. The second project that we ended up pulling in to the Atlanta office, but the first project did complete. So that NCR ended up being the first LEED core and shell platinum certified project in Georgia.
I don't think you know this, but most people, when they win their first jobs, when they get jobs, it's not 600,000 square foot projects. It's regularly their buddy's out parcel. Like that's regularly what people's first jobs are. So well done, Stanton. Seriously, very well done.
Yeah, had a lot of smart people behind me that really made it possible, and it was really being able to show capacity as a firm with a portfolio like Integral had that made kind of my pitch actually resonate. It wasn't just one guy in an office saying, "Trust me, I can do it for you."
Yeah. But it sounds like they put their trust. They put their trust in the right spot. I mean, that's fantastic. I mean, really creative thinking from an MVP firm. I mean, that's one thing we talked about on the pre-call. I'm so impressed. Like, I really am. Like MEPs. If anybody's listening, I was in commercial lighting for over 5 years, 6 years, and engineering firms always scared me. Like they really did. Like I felt like I could go to design firms and architects and talk and bring value. But when it came to engineers, they were always just like, yeah, but you guys are creative. You bring something else to the table, and I love it.
Yeah, I mean, we are an MEP firm at our core. And that's the bulk of our business, the bulk of what we do, but we don't like to lead with that in terms of kind of how we approach projects, and that's why we've kind of developed a suite of services that relate to the core business, but really kind of bridge that not divide, but bridge that gap between architecture and engineer to really help our architect clients, help our owner clients understand, the interwoven nature of their decision-making process. So through programs, through services like design analytics, which is really, driven approach to modeling and decision-making, also leveraging, a graphics group that we have in-house, take the numbers and make them more accessible from a visual point of view, knowing that architects and owners, numbers, don't mean that much, and until you bring it into some format that it's digestible. Looking at building envelope, looking at daylighting, looking at carbon metrics, looking at zero energy on a building and campus scale, what's possible, how do we approach these projects, and setting them up in concept or schematic design before we really ever get to a discussion around systems. What HVAC system are you going to put in there? How are you going to approach architectural lighting? What's the power infrastructure look like? Getting kind of the plan for the project, from a building scale up to city planning scale. And when you tackle all these different scales at Integral, but setting the project in the right way, developing a plan of attack, understanding the owner's goals and objectives, and then catering our analysis in parallel with the architect, the civil, the structural, helping guide that analysis, set a path for the outcome that will generate the biggest success.
Well, Stanton has this, and I hope this isn't a tough question, but I know that back, 8 years ago, if you were talking lead silver, it was going to cost you this much more to build the building. If you're going to go gold, it was going to cost you this much more. If you're going to go platinum, it was like, holy moly, are you really going to blow your budget and try to go that way? Has it gotten more affordable to chase a green solution or the right solution?
I mean, absolutely. And I don't think we at Integral and some of our parent institutions ever thought it was that much more expensive. It just required a different way of thinking.
Okay.
So, with NCR, for example, when we came on board, Cousins, very, fantastic, reputable, strong real estate firm. They had their way of things. They had their project requirement document that kind of defined, well, this is what we expect. These are the systems. This is the approach. We expect lead silver and so on and so forth. So, they pulled me into the team based on my pitch of, hey, let's think differently about how we can attack these buildings. But then they, gave me the owner's project requirement document. I'm like, wait a second. You hired me to be different. Why would I want to just settle for this without kind of guiding you through a process? So they're like, okay. So started pitching them different systems approaches, the importance of passive design, importance of envelope, importance of glazing selection. How could we integrate all these different things, into the envelope, which is the most important system in a building. It is not the mechanical system. If you want a good building that is healthy, comfortable, and efficient, you got to get your envelope right. And I'll say that, 10 times over. It's not the mechanical system that's going to save you, from, energy inefficiency or create an efficient building. But anyway, going through the process with the Cousins, saying, okay, what if we could get you LEED platinum without spending more money than you'd envisioned for your LEED silver pro forma? Would you be interested in that? And they're like, oh yeah, that'd be fantastic, but how are we going to attack that? And we had great partners on the team kind of backing me up, with Duda Payne and HKS and Working Buildings, John McFarland, great advocate for really pushing the envelope in this town, great credibility, helping us push some of these issues. So it came into a conversation, okay, what do we do? And realized that Cousins wasn't terribly concerned as a company around reliability of energy. Georgia Power has been able to produce, consistent energy at an affordable rate for years. But what has happened in Atlanta with growth of our population and basically decrease in our water reservoir is water has become a more precious resource. It's not that we don't get enough, rain on an annual basis to sustain, which, we do. It's just our reservoirs are depleting, based on our demand. So found this out about, Cousins, knowing we were going to excavate, dig down a little bit on Spring Street, which has a lot of underground water. And part of every high rise is, when you hit the water, you have to put in a dewatering system to keep the water off of the foundation. So, you're putting your waterproofing and whatnot, but you need to get that, static pressure of the water off your foundation to preserve the integrity of your foundation. Well, the conventional approach was you put in those systems, you put in those sumps, and they collect the water and then they dump it out into the storm sewer. So basically you're collecting it and you're just moving it off site as quickly as possible. So, well, what if we had enough supply from the groundwater and demand from the building to balance out? What if instead of capturing and dumping, we captured, treated, and reused? They're like, oh, wow, that could work. And so going to the geotech analysis, 10 gallons per minute of constant water flow, adds up to a lot of water over the course of the year. When you juxtapose that with, the the flushing that you need for toilet fixtures, the makeup water you need for cooling towers, the irrigation demands, lined up pretty damn good.
This episode of the Office Marketing Podcast is brought to you by Fusion Advisory. We help commercial contractors generate leads online profitably. Check us out at fusion-advisory.com.
Yeah. I know I feel like I'm geeking out and getting really excited about everything you're saying, but I have a funny feeling someone's going, yeah, you lost me at the toilet flush part. But I love it. This is incredible.
The big takeaway is for less than 0.1% of a cost increase to the project, we were able to put in the harvesting and treatment mechanism to take this water that you were going to capture anyway, put in risers in the building, and we were able to reuse that harvested water to offset 100% of the flushing, 100% of the irrigation, and about 80% of the water we need for cooling tower, HVAC evaporation. Simple payback, less than 12 months, just leveraging what you had. And it's just like, why haven't we been doing this all along? And so knocked out all the lead water efficiency points, did well in energy, lead platinum, actually the first dual platinum certified with the commercial interiors project in the Southeast was NCR phase 1.
Wow. Well done. I'm so excited to hear that. I have a daughter at Georgia Tech, and she loves hearing so many of the great stories that Georgia Tech has been a part of. I know the Coda project was that. The NCR campus is just, a stone's throw off Georgia Tech's campus.
Yeah.
She lived right next door, one of the high rises right next to NCR for the last couple of years. So
cool.
Yep. It's exciting. The kids, I know she's 21. She loves being in that environment of creative thinking, loving the environment, loving without blowing a budget or it's not a bad business. It's a brilliant business decision.
Sustainability is cost effective.
I love it.
You can't treat it the way the media tells you need to treat it. Or it's new thinking. It's collaborative thinking. So
well, hey, so tell us a little bit more. So if I had a project coming up, you mentioned about the building envelope, which I thought was really cool. Outside of the building envelope, what are some things that people should be thinking about in they're probably thinking about projects for 2022 and beyond, right? So, harvesting water. Yep. What are some of the really progressive ideas people could be thinking about when it comes to their buildings in the near future?
I mean, there are two big overarching kind of themes that are kind of going on. One is relatively obvious, with COVID, basically creating safe environments for us to move back into buildings. So that's kind of one area of focus, that we've been working on. The other area is around resilience, and with climate challenges, with infrastructure challenges, kind of what you saw in Texas last month, with their grid, going down, it was just an example of a grid that wasn't set up with checks and balances to, handle a situation like that. California with wildfires. I mean, there are a lot of things happening that are challenging, health and wellness and the resilience, of our cities and ability to leverage and use buildings for the purposes, under which they were constructed. So kind of within that health and wellness space, we've been developing and kind of spearheading plan development and implementation of health and wellness strategies for a lot of Fortune 50 companies, where they're not necessarily just going to one standard or other standard. We're kind of pulling parts and pieces of different approaches, like well or fit well into the equation, but again, listening to goals and objectives and kind of understanding where they want to be on the healthy materials spectrum. So again, engineer, kind of doing some industry leadership, or relative to healthy materials compliance and consulting, and that's part of our sustainability consulting group, where we're getting beyond certifications into kind of what does sustainability really mean. So looking at it from that angle, but also looking at it from an air delivery angle. How can we take existing buildings and make them safer? How can we rethink approaches to new buildings and implement strategies that set it up for success in the next pandemic. How do we avoid that pause? Oh, we got to figure it out. No, we've got a system that can adapt, that is set up in such a way that it's not going to be perfect, but it's certainly safer and better than what we had before, the pandemic. And that's kind of leveraging a lot of strategies that we talk about, but now they're becoming more kind of out in front of a lot of our projects.
I love it.
Within the resilient space,
yeah,
microgrids, batteries, just kind of rethinking, the electrical grid and distribution, a lot of localized distribution, just so you're not dependent on one source. So, building in redundancy within your infrastructure, leveraging the utility combined with localized generation, localized storage, just kind of rethinking that. On the water side, the harvesting, having a water source. So if the city says, you can't use water for your HVAC, well, that's fine. I got a supply on site. I can keep rolling. And that's the revenue that building owners, would lose if they didn't have this strategy. So rethinking like their value proposition. It's not about operational payback. It's about what happens if I have to go down. How much revenue do I lose if I have to go down for a week? Well, if you think that way during design, maybe you don't. Maybe you're the only building that's operating, and now you're a leg up in your competition.
I love it. Stanton, I love the way you think. Obviously you understand, it's in your blood, engineering is in your blood. But one thing I always loved about you is that you always think big picture, but yet you can get so granular so quickly with still understanding the influences of the importance of being fiscally responsible and the sustainability. Like, you do it so well. I've never met anybody in my life that's capable of hitting all those. I don't want to blow smoke, but you have a little Elon Musk in you. Like, you kind of have that ability to kind of see the big picture and the granular it's a great superpower.
I just need to figure out how to scale it like an Elon Musk, so we can
no.
really start tackling it. Yeah.
For selfish reasons, we want to keep you in Atlanta because you're an absolute, you really are. You're a real gem to the city. And I'm excited to see almost like how Portman can look at the skyline of Atlanta and go, how much he impacted our skyline in our city. I think 20 years from now, you're going to be able to look at this and go, hey, that was me. I was able to be a part of this, and this. And that's pretty cool. I think you should be really proud of yourself.
Thanks. Yeah, we're involved in a couple more large urban infrastructure projects that I can't talk about openly now, that, once those really get going, we're going to have another very interesting conversation.
Oh, we'll have it. I think
transformative stuff. So
I can geek out on engineering. You could be a recurring guest. I think there's going to be a certain group of people that are going to be like, oh, I loved it. He's incredible. Like, it's the way you're able to think. But hey, let's get a little more about you. Tell us a little bit about you and maybe some things that people don't specifically know about Stanton Stafford.
You may not be able to guess by looking at me, but I love heavy metal music. That's my thing, man.
Perfect.
Pantera, Metallica, just hard and heavy, and it mellows me out. So that's kind of one thing where people are like, what? That doesn't make any sense. With my family right now, cool little challenge we got going, little quest we got going. We're trying to hit all 50 states as a family before our oldest, daughter, 13-year-old daughter, graduates from high school. So that's kind of informed our travel. We've hit 40 states already, and we got a good bit of time to go. But I love planning trips. Maybe it's the engineer in me, but planning trips is extremely fun, therapeutic, exciting. I love exploring and trying new things. So that's kind of the somewhat adventurous side. I've helped start a couple of nonprofits. Mike, Life Cycle Building Center here in Atlanta. I like to volunteer. I'd say one bit of advice, to anybody young starting their career would be to volunteer. You get exposed to different people, all, walks of life, all, levels within the corporate infrastructure, and you get to do different things. And it's really a way to network and get out there. And so, starting with USGBC really, got that going. But Lifecycle Building Center was kind of a passion project that I got pulled into, nonprofit. By the way, focused on.
Stanton, I don't want to go too deep into the LBC.
Yeah.
But I'm going to put the link in the show notes. Stanton and I got to be friends maybe 10 years or maybe 8 years ago, being a part of the Lifecycle Building Center. Guys, if you just take your time, dig deep into it. Stanton's put so much of his life and his passion into it. It is an amazing nonprofit here in Atlanta. It is nonprofit, right, Stanton? Ish.
It's nonprofit.
Okay. Yeah. I know they have they do some things where they generate. Can you give us a nickel tour? Can you get 60 seconds or less? Can you tell us everything about LBC?
Give me the elevator speech.
That's all I want.
So the Lifecycle Building Center is a nonprofit focused on building material salvage and reuse. So essentially we take what would normally go to the landfill, we warehouse it, and then we either donate it to nonprofits or schools, or we sell at deep discounts from the new equivalent to the general public. We've got a warehouse in Southwest Atlanta that's about to go under renovation. Recently completed a major capital campaign. It's been, an incredible journey from keeping the doors open month to month, thinking we were going to close, to kind of where we are now. But yeah, I encourage anybody who's looking for, inexpensive but quality building materials to support a home renovation or office renovation, check them out.
All right, that was awesome, Stanton. You've done it so well. I really do. I'm a huge fan of all you do. Okay, talk to us. You hinted a little bit about your grandfather who went to Georgia Tech. Can you give me another good role model that, or is it going to be your granddad that you look up to?
My grandfather really got me, rolling, planted the seed. I never really envisioned, in high school that I'd end up in HVAC doing this. I thought I'd do something else, but, it was kind of always there. In terms of, professional role models, our current, CEO, even before Integral, I told you that they were kind of the firm that was charting the path. He was somebody who could, walk the talk and, built a business that, inspired. Our motto is trust, nurture, inspire. So he built a business, on that three-legged stool. And, he's someone, Kevin Hides, who I think, the industry, former chair of USGBC, he's somebody who, the industry, knows and acknowledges, and he's just kind of a very inspirational person. He's the one who taught me kind of the mantra of sales and business development and, professional relationships is two words. It's to be interesting and to be interested. So you need to bring something to the table, but you also need to listen, and you need to be interested in what your clients are doing and show them that you want to support them. But then you need to give them something. You need to provide something interesting, as opposed to just kind of looking for, hey, just give me some business. So
I love it.
It's been kind of a mantra that I quote over and over and over, when I'm talking to people about business development. If you can just think about that in your interactions, it'll go a long way. Is there
a book that's jumping out that you're enjoying right now, or one that's really impacted you here recently?
Book? Not so much. I'm kind of a short snippet type reader. Kind of you're reading articles to kind of stay in tune. My daughter's the avid reader in the family, and then she's turned me on to the Harry Potter series. I was kind of late to that game. But yeah, enjoy kind of disconnecting when I do read, disconnecting from this world and going into a different world, a more fantasy world that's also kind of somewhat based in reality. So yeah, the Hunger Games series and Harry Potter, it's just kind of it's a nice release.
I think there's about 1 billion people that have read the Harry Potter series, so I don't think you're in the minority. It's great.
Yeah.
You'll appreciate this. My daughter, who's again, she's a junior at Georgia Tech. She just did midterms, or not just recently, just hammered with school. And I called her. I was like, "Hey, sweetie, how's everything going?" Da, da, da. She goes, "Oh, it's good. I'm glad they're done." Da, da, da. And I said, "Well, what are you up to?" And she goes, "Oh, I'm just reading." And like her way of recharging after midterm finals is to read. And when I was in college, I don't think I was unwinding while reading, but it speaks to her, helps her. It's her therapy.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah.
I have gotten into fly fishing, which is a
Oh,
lot of fun. I mean, that's very therapeutic, and it's different from just reel fishing, just because of the constant motion and kind of the strategy and whatnot. And actually, I didn't tell you this yet, Mike, but in May we're moving up to North Georgia. We're relocating out of Atlanta. I'm gonna stay in my position, within Integral, but we're gonna have a new home right on the Chattahoochee River.
nice. Like Toccoa?
So,
where are you going, up that way?
Clarksville.
Nice.
So,
Okay. So
basically
anybody
between Clarksville and Helen.
I know exactly where. So if anybody's listening, I could geek out about that because I'm a cyclist and I have ridden tens of thousands of miles in North Georgia. Where Stanton is talking about is literally one of the most beautiful places in the world. And I've been blessed to be able to see it at 3 miles an hour climbing up these hills and 55 miles an hour going down. So you're really, Stanton, you're okay. We'll talk about that later. Let's not talk about that online. All right. Last question for you. You've got to pick it's game 7 of the World Series. It's Braves and Yankees, or Houston, whoever's going to be good this year. You can pick one starter in the history of the Atlanta Braves in their prime. Who's the one starter you're going with in game 7?
Yeah, as much as I think Greg Maddux was kind of the guy back in the day, I'm gonna have to go with Smoltzy. And John Smoltz, just power pitcher, clutch, just ultimate competitor, amazing athlete. Then give him the ball in game 7, and get him to lock it down.
Yeah, I love that. I didn't know if you were going to go Smoltz. I mean, obviously, he and I are the same age. We live not far away from each other. Our paths cross a lot. I didn't know if you were going to go Smoltz, or I thought maybe you were going to go Necro. I thought there was an outside chance you were going to pull one out. I'd love to see Necro in 2021 pitch a game 7, because I just think it'd be kind of funny to watch him pitch in a game 7.
Yeah, game 7, a knuckleballer in the day where it's very hard to find a knuckleballer. No, I hear you.
All right. So, and the last one, it's again, now it's again, 9th inning, down by 1, runners on bases loaded, down by 1, and only one guy gets to go up to bat. Right? You get to send one batter. One batter? Down by 1, bases loaded, 2 outs. You get to send one batter up to bat for the Braves. Who are you sending up to bat?
So it has to be a Braves player.
Yes, it has to be a Braves player. We're in Atlanta.
Otherwise, I'd say like Tony Gwynn or something like that.
Yeah, it's a good contact hitter. I like that.
I think at his prime, a Terry Pendleton would be that contact guy who could put the ball in play, get you a hit, not going to go for the home run. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. That just popped into my head. I think Terry Pendleton, back in the day, back in his prime, was the guy. He had a couple, great years for us.
He did, and a batting coach for many years. So, hey, walk me through. If somebody wanted to get in touch with you, Stanton, would LinkedIn be the best way to grab you?
Yeah, I'm avid, contributor and poster on LinkedIn. That's a great way to get in touch with me. You can also go to the Integral Group website, which is integralgroup.com. Not to be confused with the Integral Group, which is a developer in Atlanta. We're a different company. That's another podcast for you. There's a good story there, Mike.
Believe me, you'll be back on.
Go to the website. You'll
be back on, Stanton. I'll put all your links. I'll put in the show notes. I'll put all your links. But if anybody wants to know Stanton, Stanton Stafford, Stanton is easy to find. His title on LinkedIn shows him as principal, mechanical engineer, business development leader, nonprofit board member. I mean, Stanton, you're just really, thank you for taking time. I hope anybody that listened today walks away having a new perspective and has another great voice to listen to in this construction world. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the Office Marketing Podcast. Be sure to join the conversation on our YouTube channel, LinkedIn, and Facebook pages. If you enjoyed the episode, head over to iTunes to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.